A tourist crossed the line, mocking both the guard and the veteran. But when the guard broke protocol, his action shocked everyone. That day changed everything forever. Buckingham Palace rises above the morning hustle, a solemn reminder of the empire's former glory. Streams of tourists flood the square like rivers, converging at the gates. The cacophony of camera flashes, chatter in various languages, and the clinking of coins dropped by careless hands drowns out even the timeless grandeur of the scene. Amid this chaos stands the royal guard. His scarlet uniform is flawlessly pressed, and his black boots shine like freshly polished parquet. The bearskin hat perches perfectly on his head, as if nature itself conspired to honor his unwavering stance. This is James Carter, a man in his 30s. His gaze is fixed forward, not at the crowd but beyond it, as if peering into eternity. He is the embodiment of discipline, resilience, and tradition. The tourists don't understand this. To them, James is just part of the scenery. "Hey, Mr. Hat, are you even alive?" a man in his 40s shouts. He's wearing a loud t-shirt that reads London Tour 2024, knee-length shorts, and turquoise sandals. He smirks at the motionless guard, like a child testing whether a toy will break if thrown against a wall. Behind him, a young woman, clearly his companion, waves her arms in an attempt to capture the perfect shot. Her laughter rings out, sharp and mocking. Other tourists chuckle. Some pull out their phones, eager to record a video destined to rake in likes on social media. James doesn't flinch. Even his eyelashes remain still. This isn't just his job, it's his duty. Of course, he'd like to respond, but he knows his silence is a tradition, stretching back hundreds of years. And in this silence, he speaks louder than the raucous crowd ever could. "He's probably a robot." Another tourist, a young man wearing a backward cap, yells as he raises his phone to film. Laughter ripples through the crowd. Teenagers edge closer, phones at the ready. Cameras click frantically, trying to capture even the slightest reaction. No one here came to honor British culture. They came for a show. In their minds, the formula is simple. I paid money, so anything goes. To them, James Carter is just another attraction. As the men loudly debate the guard's stoicism, more tourists join in. A group of teenagers laughs, pointing at James. "Let's see if he'll scream," one of them suggests. Another tosses him a coin. The coin clinks against the cobblestones, landing at James's feet. The crowd erupts into louder laughter. But James remains as still as a statue. Inside, anger simmers, but he knows that showing even a flicker of emotion would mean defeat. His restraint is more than self-control. It's respect for the uniform he wears. Meanwhile, the man in the t-shirt decides to up the ante. He takes a step forward, crossing the white line that separates the public from the guard's post. "Hey," he says, as if addressing an old friend. "Do you even realize how boring you are? Entertain us. Come on, give us a little smile." James remains steadfast. He feels as if this crowd is a test. He's prepared for provocations, but it still stings. This is what his duty has come to? To be a target for ridicule? And then he notices him. James's gaze shifts to an elderly man making his way through the crowd, leaning on a cane. The man, likely in his 70s, has silver hair and medals pinned to his jacket. His face is determined, but his legs tremble with effort. The old man slips on the wet cobblestones. His cane falls from his hand, and he collapses to his knees. The tourists around him keep laughing, oblivious to what's just happened. But James, protocol be damned, knows it's time to act. Because true duty isn't just standing post. True duty is ensuring the world never forgets what honor means. A dull thud echoed on the cobblestones. The old man, a World War II veteran, had slipped and fallen to his knees. His cane clattered to the side, and the lapel of his jacket, adorned with medals, trembled along with his body. And the most horrifying part, no one moved. The crowd, engrossed in their entertainment, continued to laugh and record videos. The man in the t-shirt, who had been so eager to taunt the guard, turned around and, noticing the old man, smirked. "Look at that! Gramps couldn't keep up," he said loudly, addressing his companion. "Guess he didn't pass the age test." His voice, dripping with mockery, cut through the noise of the crowd. Laughter followed, as if he'd just delivered the joke of the year. Then, something even more absurd happened. A teenager behind him clapped, as though this scene deserved applause. James Carter remained motionless, but only on the outside. Inside, a storm raged. Anger? Disappointment? It was a maelstrom of emotions. He thought of his grandfather, also a veteran, who had shared stories of those who gave everything for peace. And now, their legacy was being trampled like discarded trash. The guard took a single step forward. One solitary step, but for James, it meant more than words ever could. Approaching the old man, he bent down and gently helped him to his feet. "Are you all right, sir? Let me help you." His voice was quiet but full of respect. He didn't ask why no one else had stepped forward. He simply knew that at this moment, nothing mattered more than aiding the veteran. The crowd fell silent, as if someone had hit pause on this consumerist spectacle. People began to realize what had just happened. Some put their phones away. Others raised them higher, desperate to capture this unprecedented moment. A guard breaking protocol. The moment was interrupted by the man in the t-shirt. "Hey, get back to your post!" he yelled, waving dismissively as if shooing a fly. "That's not your job. You're supposed to stand there like a statue." The crowd held its breath, waiting for James's reaction. But instead of submitting or ignoring him, James raised his head and looked directly at the man. His gaze was cold, not angry, but resolute. It held everything: dignity, strength, and unyielding purpose. Sometimes true duty isn't just standing your post, it's doing what's right. His words echoed, carried by the breeze across the square. The crowd came alive with applause and cheers. "Well done!" someone shouted. "That's what it's all about." People exchanged glances, many clearly embarrassed by their earlier behavior. Those who had laughed tried to fade into the background. The man in the t-shirt flushed, unsure how to respond. His companion whispered something to him, but he waved her off and turned away. Meanwhile, the old man smiled at James, his trembling hands gripping the cane the guard had retrieved for him. "Thank you, son," the veteran said, his voice shaky but heartfelt. "It's an honor, sir," James replied as he resumed his stance. In that moment, it was clear. The silent guard had won. Not against the crowd or the heckler, but against the moral decay that had seemed insurmountable at first. The elderly man struggled to his feet, leaning on James's outstretched hand. His face, lined with deep wrinkles, was pale, but gratitude shone in his eyes. The medals on his lapel gleamed in the sunlight, silent reminders of the far greater trials he had endured. "Thank you, son," he said, his voice trembling, but dignified. The crowd, which had been silent, began to stir. Some whispered, others pulled out their phones to record the scene. But our antagonist, the man in the London Tour 2024 t-shirt, wasn't ready to fade into the background. "Wait a second! Isn't he supposed to stay at his post?" he shouted, turning to the crowd as if looking for allies. "We came here for a show, not for this." He waved dismissively in the veteran's direction, leaving his sentence unfinished. But today was not going to go his way. "This isn't a circus, mate," a man from the crowd declared loudly. He looked about 40, with a kind face and a distinct local accent. "Do you even understand who's standing in front of you?" The crowd buzzed in agreement, their murmurs growing louder. The man in the t-shirt faltered. His face reddened, and his eyes darted around, searching for an escape. His companion tugged at his arm, whispering something, but he brushed her off irritably. "So what?" he blurted out, desperation creeping into his voice. "He's just some old guy." "That old guy," the local continued, pointing to the veteran, "has earned more respect in a lifetime than you ever will. And the guard, he's doing something you'll never understand." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Someone in the crowd began to clap. Then another. Within seconds, applause swelled, spreading like a wave across the square. The man in the t-shirt slumped, his face now a deep shade of crimson. He muttered something under his breath and stepped back. At that moment, 2 palace security guards appeared. Tall and imposing in their dark uniforms, they approached the man. "Sir, you need to leave the premises," one of them said, his tone calm but firm. "What? Why? I didn't do anything," the tourist stammered, his voice betraying his unease. "Please leave the premises, sir," the guard repeated, gesturing toward the exit. The crowd watched in silence before erupting into a chorus of commentary. "That's the right call," someone shouted. "Good riddance," another added. Nearby, a person raised their phone to snap a close-up shot of the man as he was escorted away. "This is definitely going online," a voice in the crowd remarked. When the man was finally led beyond the barriers, James returned to his post. He adjusted his bearskin hat and resumed his stance, as if nothing had happened. But the atmosphere had changed. The crowd no longer whispered or chuckled. Instead, many stood quietly, gazing at the guard with newfound respect. "Men like him remind us that honor and tradition still matter," an elderly man nearby said softly. His words rippled through the crowd. A few nodded in agreement. As the square began to empty, the conversations continued. People recounted the event, uploading videos with captions like, "The guard who reminded us what honor means," or "Justice served at Buckingham Palace." The video quickly went viral, amassing millions of views and thousands of comments. Many praised James's actions, calling them a testament to the importance of respecting tradition. But James, standing motionless at his post, remained unaware, and likely uninterested, in his newfound fame. He knew only this: today was just another step in upholding what truly matters. And though tomorrow would bring more crowds, more taunts, and more cameras, he felt a deep sense of pride, because even the smallest act can remind the world of its greatest values.